Hongyi suit that I'm going to be fixing the zipper. Pardon me while the camera kind of moves a minute. I'm trying to get it to be stable. So basically, what's happened is it has torn right along the weld, which is really pretty common. The little line on either side of the weld kind of focuses stress, and if there's any kind of an imperfection anywhere along there, or if anything sharp hits it, that stress just once it starts a tear, there's so much stress that's kind of focused along that line that it's real easy for it to travel. But the good news is that it's all on the outside of this, so it won't really be too difficult to repair it, and I don't have to actually worry too much about the inflatable chamber because it's on the other side of this seal. So basically, what I want to do is join these two back together, and we'll do that on the inside as best as we can. One tricky thing is the material is still kind of attached. Oh, well, actually, looks like I can take care of that. So it's actually separating pretty easy. So actually that's a pretty good thing, because what I can do, if I can get this off, I can actually join this back and then come back and glue the zipper back on. So that'll actually be really easy to do. So let's see if I can get the rest of this off. I might actually have to use hot air, possibly. Yeah, that's coming loose. Very good. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna make that a whole lot easier. So the zipper actually has a vinyl coating, so it'll be easy to use the glue on it. Let's see if I can get this off without any hot air. I think I can. One little spot right here that seems to have welded better than the rest. Yeah, it looks like they used a little more pressure on this one spot. So actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go get some hot air, and I will be right back so I can get that last little bit off. I am first going to try using just a standard blow dryer, because it'll get up to about between 300 and 400 degrees. If that doesn't work, I can use a heat gun, but the heat gun goes a little bit hotter than I really want to deal with. It goes up to about 950 degrees. I don't really want to pull real hard on this because it'll just tear. I want to see if it'll release Well, I tell you what, actually, because it's already kind of started there, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and match this back up. I'll leave this section basically attached to the zipper. And then we'll just match it back up when we glue it. All right, so now that the zipper's out of the way, what I want to do is go ahead and reattach this. Since this is the outside, you know, I want this part to look good. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some painter's tape. I'm really amazed. This material is actually pretty gummy. The last time I had tried the white material that they print on, it was pretty rigid. So this really surprised me. They have some different material now. I'm just trying to do a good job matching it back up, because this is, you know, this is what you'll see once it's all repaired. So if you spend a little bit of time with this, then it can really make a difference with how it comes out. The glass jar helps because you can kind of stretch it over it and things will kind of stay in place. All right, so down here I need to kind of make sure that I'm coming together on these things, because sometimes one side can kind of stretch a little bit and it makes it difficult to line up. You can end up with slack on one side. So whenever you get to like a place where there's like a notch or something that you can use for alignment, it's good to go ahead and kind of line that up and then kind of work backwards, because then you can kind of stretch stuff as needed. Yeah, sorry the camera's rocking all over the place. I think I need a better tripod. I got it on this like gooseneck and it's attached to the table, but it kind of Whenever I touch the table, it seems to bounce. I need to come up with a better camera setup. Don't want everybody getting seasick. Yeah, definitely. It looks like the tear probably happened kind of right down here. And that is absolutely not uncommon because I just fixed one of these seams right at the bottom on a Bailey Dragon. It was actually one that I hasn't even sold. It was just an in-stock one, and I started testing it. And we had done a reinforcement patch, but apparently we didn't use thick enough material because it just completely busted right around there. And so I'm not surprised. This is a really, really high stress area at the end of a zipper like this. It just needs a lot of reinforcement. So let's see if I can get some alignment here. Okay, yeah, I got a little notch over here I can line up. Right there. Alright, so if I can get that lined up. It's basically just a little tiny notch, but I knew that you can see that goes together right there. So I'll go ahead and, if I can get that together, then I can kind of work backwards. Roll my glass jar a little bit further this way. And I'm going to peel this back, make sure this is coming together the way I want it to. All right, I just have one little piece left to do here, and then I can start gluing it. All right, so now what I can do is turn this inside out right here. and then work. So I'm going to pull this off the table for just a second. Turn it inside out. Just have to be real careful doing this because I got everything just sort of taped, so I just kind of go slow, especially down here when I get to the bottom of the zipper. When I turn this thing inside out, I just need to be real careful. So here is where I need to go ahead and do the repair first. And then we'll reattach the zipper. And so what I'm gonna do is, I believe I've got some of this material. Let me go grab it. I've got some Hongyi white material. I think that's probably what I need right there. We got a bunch of stuff that they sent a while back. So I think what I'll do is I'll work probably make this up into some 1-inch pieces. And that should give me down each side, and then I'll probably do a different shape for the bottom. So I always round the ends because corners and things don't ever stay glued. Put some gloves on. Now, actually, I'm going to go grab some acetone. I don't have any here. The reason why I need acetone is because if you want a really, really strong bond, the glue alone won't do it. You need to clean with acetone first on the material that you're gluing, and you'll get a much stronger bond. So I'm going to take and prep this. I'm going to prep this by doing some acetone first. And this is actually going to kind of start dissolving the material, which will re-solidify once the acetone evaporates. Note that I have a activated carbon air filter running right here beside me, so it's filtering the air. You don't really want to breathe acetone. I'm also going to do it on these strips too. It cleans them, and it starts to kind of dissolve the top layer of the material so that it'll bond even better. I'm just going to do this one for now because I don't want to lose which side of it that I just did. So I'll just go ahead and, okay, I'm going to lay that down, and then I need to get some glue. Man, I have made an enormous mess. Just getting my glue into my syringe. I need new gloves. But at least it kept all that off of my hands. All right, so now I need new gloves. These are nitrile gloves, which fortunately don't have any powder on them. And they're tight, but I'd rather have real tight gloves so that they don't get in the way when I'm working. You obviously can't use vinyl gloves because they'll bond. You can use latex gloves. So we usually have latex gloves for working on vinyl, and then we have either vinyl or nitrile gloves for working on latex. All right, so I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna start this. And I'm gonna go from here down. I'm gonna just put a little bit on here just to get it anchored. Like the first inch. Just trying to get it equally distributed. I want that to go a little bit past where the tear is. And then now I can work, whatever I feel comfortable with. Might do a couple inches at a time. My technique for doing latex is a little different. I put the rubber cement on both sides, let it set for about a minute until it gets tacky, and then I put them together. On vinyl, I'll go ahead and do it. You can do vinyl the same way, but I usually will go ahead on vinyl and do it wet because I can kind of work with the material a little bit better. I can kind of push things in. And sometimes I'll do that sometimes I'll do latex wet as well. It just depends. But I tend to like to do it wet because I can kind of work with it while it's wet for just a minute to kind of push things in and to get wrinkles worked out. So there's lots of different ways you can do things. There's not really a wrong way. It's kind of an art. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, take a look at different techniques people do and then just kind of figure out what works for you. I always peel it back just a little bit to make sure I don't have a gap. Of course, this one's not quite as critical since we're not we're not dealing with the inflatable chamber. We're, you know, this is strictly mechanical, but we, you know, we want it to be extremely strong. There's a lot of stress on the zipper. You can see how that it lets me do a lot of things one-handed by having this jar, because I can kind of curve it over it and hold things in place. And it's glass, so it gives me something really nice to kind of roll against. Pressure is really what's going to give you a very, very strong bond. You can clamp things if you need to, or you can just kind of periodically roll it over the next 30 minutes, because that's really when this stuff is setting up. It takes quite a bit of time. You can actually roll air bubbles and wrinkles out even up to, like, you know, 20-30 minutes without a problem. So this is HH66 vinyl cement that I'm using. Using a 18 gauge blunt needle on a syringe. You can get these from Amazon. They really work nice for controlled spreading of glue, and you can even kind of use the needle to kind of spread it. The 18 gauge is kind of my favorite. So it looks like my length really just kind of worked out there. I'll go ahead and let's see, I guess I'm gonna just leave it the length it is and just round this off. So I'll do another strip down the other side, and then when I get to the bottom, I'm gonna do a nice big piece, and then I'm gonna probably reinforce it. I might even do a reinforcement on the outside. I'll just run it by the customer and see, you know, what I could use. I could use a clear, but I'd probably go for like a black or something. Even though it's gonna be a slightly different color, it might still look pretty nice against that gray color that is kind of a carbon gray. But yeah, probably a nice reinforcement down here on the bottom will keep this from happening again, since there's so much stress down there. That is absolutely one of the places where we have to reinforce the crap out of on our suits, and the ones that we get Bailey to make. This one spot is just like one of the most stressful points. Sometimes the top of the zipper is too, but usually it's the bottom, because the body kind of inflates in this area the most. So, like, especially if the person wearing it like lays on their stomach, then there's a lot pulling on this one spot. So it needs to be really, really well reinforced to be able to handle that. One of the things that they could do too, like if you have anybody custom make you something, if you can ask them to take extra strips of vinyl, you know, maybe 3/4 of an inch wide or so, you know, at least wide enough for the seam, and put it down it is more work for them, so they'll probably charge, but if they can cut that out and then put it down and then weld it, so they literally would have, like, instead of the 2 layers they would actually have 3. So you'd add another piece of material in there, and then they can weld that together, and it basically just adds more vinyl to the seam, so it's a little bit thicker seam. And I recently had something done, and they did that. I didn't ask them to, but they were using a thinner material, and they added that, and it has been really strong. It has not torn. So it's definitely a technique that really seems to help quite a bit. So I can come back here and kind of weld or roll these things that I've already done, just to kind of add a little bit more pressure, work out any air bubbles. Okay, I'm going to move to this other side. And then I'm going to do the same thing here with the acetone on this strip. Going to clean that off, and it's also going to kind of get that surface a little bit dissolved, so that it'll be a better bond. I'm going to go ahead and put some glue down just at the tip to kind of get this anchored. And what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to put it up here just past where this is torn. Then I'm going to try to kind of work it to follow. So I'm going to kind of come this way with it just a little bit. Because here my tear kind of went this way and then kind of comes off the edge. So I'm going to see if I can't follow it a bit. It's good to have an air filter or use a respirator, just something so you're not breathing the glue. It has acetone, MEK, toluene. If it's nice outside, you could do this outside. You still don't really want to get your face real close to it and breathe it. If you do, then you might want to wear a activated carbon respirator. Or you could have a fan blowing across your work area, or like I've got here, an activated carbon air filter right next to where I'm working, and it's on high, so it's basically sucking everything in. So the little roller I'm using is called a brayer. They make them in a lot of different hardnesses of material. This is a pretty hard rubber brayer. I like the hard ones because I can really put good force. You can get them at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or places like that. Amazon has them. I just recommend a kind of a hard one. Even come back here and do this other side again. Looking for air bubbles, kind of work those out. Looking for wrinkles. if you get an air bubble you really can't deal with, you can always kind of do like you do with a blood blister and take a needle and kind of put it in from the side and just kind of poke it, and then you can roll it. You don't want to poke straight in because you can go all the way through and end up with a hole into your inflatable chamber, but you can kind of poke sideways and just let that air bubble out. I do that quite a bit. Even if you do happen to go all the way through, it's not the end of the world because there's glue in there and chances are it's probably going to seal it off anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and do a patch down here at the bottom. I am going to take a grease pen, find one. There we go, there's one. What I'm doing is just kind of tracing out lovely. I keep telling myself no drinks in the craft beer, but I don't listen to my own rules. Luckily, that was just a carbonated water, so no big deal. All right, so now I am going to use some rubbing alcohol first, and maybe probably some acetone. Well, yeah, I'm going to do some acetone anyways to get this get these marks off. Vinyl stains really easily, especially the light materials. If you do a gel pen like this on black or something, it's not a big deal, but as you can see on white, even just being on there for a little bit, it does not want to come off. So you just got to be real careful with the light colors. but acetone will take it off pretty well. Plus, I want the acetone anyways to kind of clean this and get it to bond better. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold this top over just a little bit to create a thicker edge. It'll help to be a zipper stop. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of glue along this so that I can fold it over. And you do have to kind of work with it for a minute because the fold doesn't really want to stay down. So just kind of work with it for a minute until it starts behaving and staying down. Keep the air out of that crease. And you can let it have just a little bit of air once it's glued down, but you just want to at least have most of that stay glued. All right, so now I'm gonna put about a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch little strip of glue just along this top edge. And then I'm gonna glue that down, and then I'll come back and finish gluing it. It's just too hard to glue this whole thing in one go. It's big. Your glue will start setting up if you try to do too much. So when I put this down, I want to make sure that it's straight and that I'm gluing everything that covering everything that I want to cover. Kind of using my side of my hand like a roller. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a little bit more glue. I'm probably not going to do the whole thing. I'll probably do another 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch across. So the remnants of that zipper are not actually going to fit back down into there, but that's okay. I really need to have this piece here and it's kind of covered that up, but I want to do a reinforcement on the outside anyway, so it's really not even going to matter. We're basically going to do a piece just like this, roughly like this on the outside, but with probably black. So I'll ask the customer what they want to do. That'll be the last thing I do actually. So what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to go ahead and get the zipper glued back on. And then the last thing will be turn it right side out and put that last reinforcement patch on the outside. We've also got some tape to remove on the outside too. You don't want to leave painter's tape on vinyl for too long. You'll get residue that's real hard to clean off. I'm still going over my old stuff, just to kind of keep giving it some good pressure. If you ever really screw up and realize you need to take something loose, you can use a hair dryer. And once you heat it up, you can actually just peel it back off. Even if it's been on there for years, it'll come loose. The glue will release before the material actually melts, although it'll get real flexible. You'll never do it inflated, because you'll end up with like giant bulges where the material will heat stretch. So you do it, deflated, and then you can peel things off like zippers. And now that's with glue. With their welds, the welds that they do are basically going to come off typically at the same temperature that the material melts. So the glue kind of has the benefit that you can undo by getting it up to about 400 degrees, 300 or 400 degrees. Which is super convenient when you want to take something loose. If you got old patches, for example, say you've patched something and then say something tears next to a patch, you can just remove that old patch with heat and then put a new patch to cover up where the old patch was plus where the new tear is. So you can eliminate a bunch of unnecessary patches that way. All right, so the next step is to go ahead and get this zipper glued back down. And you got to be careful not to glue too far out, because this zipper kind of travels between the vinyl, like between this little area. So you got to keep a gap. And so I'm gluing only probably the left 3/8 of this thing, because otherwise your zipper won't be able to travel. What you can even do is kind of test this. I'm going to make sure I can get this close together. But you can make sure that this can get through. And eventually I need the zipper to be out of the way anyway, so I could just kind of leave it up there. The only thing you got to do is just make sure that there's no stress. So like, I need to kind of make sure that this is all kind of stress-free, where it's not pulling. Making sure that I'm lined up. They basically kind of followed the edge of the vinyl with the slit of the zipper, so I'm kind of doing the same thing. What I need, I keep getting glue all over my hands. I need to kind of use a paper towel, so if any glue gets squished out the side, I can kind of just take it up with the paper towel. Bottle readjusted here a little bit. going to switch over to the other side now. Checking my alignment. I want the two pieces of vinyl to come together, but I don't want them to necessarily like overlap. So just kind of keeping an eye on that. We can kind of work with it while the glue is wet. If I need to kind of slide it a little bit, I can do that. Get rid of some of this excess glue that is kind of squished out. And I need some new gloves anyway, so I'm going to just lose those for a minute. I'm not going to have a whole lot of glue to deal with for a minute. I'm just going to be kind of rolling and getting the rest of this all nice on the inside before I turn it inside out. And then I'll remove my tape, and then I'll do an outside patch. But I'll probably stop the video because I'll need to talk to the customer and see what color outside patch. So yeah, you can really see that rolling this is such a huge key to a good bond. So it's really, really important. To really get a good pressure on all of this stuff. And it's a pressure over, about a 30-minute period of time that you really need to do if you want it done right. And you don't really want to put any serious pressure on this for at least an hour or so. I always like to check kind of edges. There was a little bit of a gap there on that edge. Just kind of feel with my fingernail, make sure that there's no gaps. There's a little one. There's a couple of them down here. I need to check right here. That's what's really cool about having the syringe, is you can just kind of inject it where you need it. The zipper's getting stuck right here. I need to take a look at that. It's probably glued a little bit further. May just take zipping and unzipping it a few times just to make sure that it can get through this. All right, so now it's time to turn this thing right side out carefully, very carefully. Try not to put any pressure on the stuff that I just glued. Hood here first, just to get this out. Just carefully trying to roll it back right side out. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on all this stuff that I just did. Zipper looks like it kind of wrinkled some of this stuff right here, this material. Looks like it was kind of got some glue on it. There we go. Go ahead and take this tape off. And so now the only thing that's really left to do is put a piece down here at the bottom to cover basically this whole section right here. And since I don't quite have this like charcoal gray or carbon gray, I will probably, I think white would stand out too much, so I'll probably use, suggest using black. Clear is another option. The problem is you got this white showing through already though, so if you didn't have that, you could do clear. There's still some rolling that can kind of be done periodically even from this side. We can take a look at what's going on with the zipper. Yeah, it looks like I might need to get in there with some real sharp, I got some real sharp scissors here somewhere. I think what I need to do is just cut. Well, most of this is going to kind of get down here at the bottom is going to get covered up, but I'm going to do this and get this material out of the way. Yeah, there we go. Just need to make sure that it can slide easily. It keeps kind of getting caught here, so I need to investigate this a little bit here. And if there's some places that it kind of sticks, what you can do is kind of put some powder so that you can peel it back, but the problem is the glue will always kind of try to re-stick unless you put powder. And then you can kind of keep the glue from, when you pull it back, you need to put something to keep it from trying to re-stick. There we go. And that's super important, because if it gets caught somewhere, then chances are you might end up with another problem, kind of like this. If it gets caught, then you go to yank on it, and then it might end up doing a lot more damage just because it's caught. So, all right, well, that's it for now. We just have that one last piece to do, but I need to figure out what color we're going to do. So thanks for tuning in.